this revenue are now projected about 352,000 higher than adopted budget. I'm going to talk a lot about TOT tax. TOT tax was Burlingame's largest general fund revenue source.
Like reverb.
We have collected 29.4 million for fiscal year 18-19, which is pre-pandemic. In 2021, the revenue source plunged to $5.7 million. We were able to double it to close to 12.4 million in fiscal year 21-22. As of January, the city collected 10.6 million TOT tax in 7 months. We are projected increase about 2.8 million from the adopted budget for this TOT tax line item. You're go faster backwards. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. For this chart for sales tax and use tax revenue and shows the third quarter of 2022 sales tax result, which is the latest information we have available. For the fourth quarter result won't be available until mid-April. So you can see from a comparison from last couple of years and the pre-pandemic time, after a dramatic drop in the second quarter of 2020, shelter in place, everything is on pause to the last couple of years recovery. The third quarter data indicated mixed performance among different business and industry sectors. For example, restaurant and hotel and also fuel service station exceed pre-pandemic level. However, other areas show some slowdown and then even flat. So growth in sales tax is back to be slow for the current fiscal year. Next slide, please. I mentioned early, city collected $10.6 million for the first 7 months of this fiscal year. From this chart, you can see we are nowhere near pre-pandemic level fiscal year 18-19, but we're certainly on the train of continued recovery. We will provide council with more updated information as we go into the month of May. So. This slide summarizes the proposed general fund revenue amendment. We have already addressed the big 3 revenue. I will not repeat here. And then I'm going to only cover for charge for services. We see a close to $780,000 increase. This contributed from community development planning division, about $850,000 for this increase. We offset some other revenue reduction for this category. For the property transfer tax, which is a split 0.11% tax evenly with the county. Based on the information, we made a $300,000 negative adjustment to it due to the interest rate borrowing for housing and then also the low inventory in the city. So we will see a $300,000 reduction for this item. Please. So before we leave the discussion of current year revenue, this graph places the current year revenue in perspective with actual revenue of the past 5 years. You will see some similar information about expenditure as well. So this graph showing you for 2018-19 all-time high, and then slowly dropped down 2021, 62.1 million. Now we are bounced back slowly and then close to the 17-18, 18-19 level for the revenue. So as part of the middle year analysis in general fund, all the departments were asking to examine their year-to-date budget to actual report, note any discrepancy and then identify any area where more funding will be needed to fulfill their work plan for the remainder of the fiscal year. We also ask them to identify where significant budget savings might occur. Again, what we are trying to do is provide the most accurate picture of the operation need within the budget. By identifying and adjusting those changes, make the budget more transparent, give us a better starting picture going into the 23-24 budget development. So for the expenditure adjustment total, we are increased by 3.2, almost $3.3 million for the middle year adjustment. Next slide, please. For this slide, again, as you can see, the amended expenditure budget is higher than last couple of years, and then close to 18, 19, 19, 20 level. Slide, please. Beside the departmental expenditure line, general fund also cover transfer out to capital project and the debt services. The last column show this graph is changes we are proposing. The revenue is greater than expenditure by near 1.6 million. However, you look at the column next to it for the new projection, the bottom line, we are still in the red by 2.6 million before the transfer for pension trust. Again, here's a picture. Pretty much, you put the revenue and expenditure for next, together to see. Seems like in past 5 years, we always have able to achieve surplus. Even though for the current year, we are anticipating projecting finish year in red. However, we're really hoping everyone can work together. We're able to see a surplus at year end. This is a slide showing the prior year actual funding balance with the new fiscal year 22-23 fund balance projections, adjusted for the changes identified in the mid-year budget report. As we can show, as is shown in this chart, unassigned fund balance is less compared with last year end result drop from 13.2 million to 7.7 million. However, it's much higher than the original adopted budget, $584,000, thanks for the TOT revenue coming higher, than we projected. So in terms of economic stability reserve is increased due to higher revenue. We can see the adopt budget is 16.9 million, and then the new projection 18.2 million, close 18.1 million, sorry. So this reserve, based on the city reserve policy, is a 24% of the middle year revenue projections. Those thanks to the city council and the leadership, have this reserve structure set up, so helping us weather the storm. So for the pension trust, this is not available for future appropriation by council. However, it does not means we cannot use it when we really need helping to pay off some pension expenditures when we need it in the future. So we are still have $7.7 million unfunded balance, and this number without consider for mark-to-market investment adjustment in this one.
Can I stop you?
Mm-hmm.
So I have two different questions, and if you want to come back to one of them after the end of the presentation, that's fine. In just looking at the reserves, so where do we keep the money that we have assigned and I believe allocated for our contribution to grade separation?
That one is recorded in separate fund called Capital Project Reserve Fund. So it's currently have a $21 million in the fund.
We don't show that on this.
It's not in here.
Why do we not show it on this chart?
I think a general fund, we looked about our operation, what is available, but that already spoken for the capital commitment. So we kind of separated, so we're not going to touch it. But if you look at grand total, 44, almost 45 million plus 15, no, I'm sorry, 21 million. So we have more than 65.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so when we do the CapEx, capital expenditures, that's where we'll see those funds.
I believe for this year, we kind of build in for grade separation, we kind of using draw down some of the funding source from the capital reserve fund this year.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then, sorry, just while I have the microphone, we went kind of quickly over the expenditures going up, and so I think we all followed along the $5 million surplus on revenue, which is great for the reasons that you described. I found it a little quick for me in terms of where the additional costs came from. So maybe either now or at the end of the presentation, we could just drill down for a minute on that, so I can have a better grasp of that.
I can make a quick comment. If not enough, I can
Sure.
elaborate more. So for the 3.2 million, a majority of them is we did the internal service charge for 1.5 million for the tree settlement, one happening this year in December. We need to make that payment, which is not appropriated because at that time we don't know when the settlement is going to reach and how much going to cost. So at that time we don't know. So right now we try to grab this money, bring into our insurance liability fund to make payment towards those kind of settlement. Addition to that $1.5 million, we also have $400,000 to contribute to OPEB, which is Retiree Medical Internal Service Fund. Due to the way we process those kind of funding, we are run through the payroll. However, we have vacancies, we do not generate enough money. So last year, as a result, we have negative fund balance for that OPEB Internal Service Fund. So we try to true up this fund, make it whole. So that's why we decided make adjustment at the middle year. It's about 400,000. So between these two lines, it's made up of almost $1.9 million. I think in my staff report, a kind of detailed listing for others, such as contract services increase because of the demand and offset by revenue bring in. It's not really increased but it's kind of offset by the revenue sources. So I'm hoping that answers your question.
Okay. Yes, did you have, is there any, yes, please, Vice Mayor Olson.
Thank you. It's just a reminder, the Economic Stability Reserve Fund. What you mentioned the percentage, I didn't quite catch it. Is it 24% of the operating budget? Is
The revenue, the projected revenue.
the projected operating revenue?
Yes.
Okay. And that's why it fluctuates up and down every year.
Right. Okay. Yeah, even though right now we look at, okay, we have negative, but however, we continue to build our reserve based on our reserve policy.
We might want to just, that might be a good footnote for the bottom of that slide for future reference, just in case someone from the public were looking at it, they might not know what that is.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Scott. Did you have any? No, okay. You're good. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So for next 3 slides, I'm going to show you the budget adjustment for fund other than general fund. You can find this information from resolution, at least listing all other funds. This slide for the revenue side, we are beside the gas tax fund, we made a negative adjustment, $64,000 based on the latest state projections. All other area is all showing positive signs. So department is worth mention. They are very active this year. The revenue be more than $1 million higher than initial anticipated. As I mentioned in previous slide, general liability insurance fund will charge Park Division for $1.5 million to cover the increase of settlement of payment for fiscal year. So and also I true up the OPEB internal service fund $400,000. This where other funds, the net result is only about 1.2 because exclude this 2 internal service fund charges. Next slide, please. So this slide showing expenditure side for other fund. Again, the major impact is the insurance claim, 1.5 million at general liability insurance fund. So for example, like a building enterprise fund, $825,000, they are offset by the revenue coming in as well. So.
Can I stop for a second?
Mhm.
So that general liability insurance, is that going to be it's a one, did I understand you correctly? It's a one-time thing that would not be